My name is Rick Harsch, and I teach a master class in fiction. You may skip this ad in 3 days. Today's class is on cliches. Now, I think you know most writers would tell you, don't use cliches. I'm here to tell you, use cliches. Today's cliche is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, the reason you want to use cliches is because sometimes they need to be corrected. I think what they mean to say, if it ain't broke, is don't fiddle with it. Because if it ain't broke, you can't fix it. But you can fiddle with it. And then maybe it'll be broke. And then you have the up-and-coming new cliche, if it's broke, fix it. Or at least try. But, you know, if something isn't broke, how can we break it? Easily. Fiddle with it till it's broke. And this is a formula that is used by the Marx Brothers for much of their comedy. If it's not broke, they fiddle with it and they break it. And there's all kinds of comic possibilities in that. So if it ain't broke, break it. Break it, fiddle with it till you break it. And then you can have all sorts of fun with it. So that's one example of a cliche that you really should use. Now, there's another cliche I think of quite often, which is under lock and key. For you know, under is fine because, you know, they don't mean it, you know, like you're literally under a giant lock and key. But if you're under lock and key, well, then you have the key to open the lock. And so it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Just use the key, open the lock, and then you can get out. But what it should be maybe is under lock mechanism. And so if you need to use something like that, just say under some kind of lock mechanism or under padlock with key absent. Who has the key? That's the key. Go find that key. You can't find it because you're locked. Well, check first, see if they locked it. Might not be locked. How many times have we forgotten to lock something? You know, I forget to lock my car all the time. So my car, the things in my car are under unlocked lock. And, you know, luckily I'm in a place where people don't steal the valuables in my car, such as baseball equipment. Under lock and key. Under lock and key. Lock implies key, or maybe, I don't know, it's not we're advancing technologically, so maybe we should say under lock and combination. Under combination lock. Under, in a fucking jail cell. They're all kind. Use the cliches and use them to your advantage. Have fun with cliches. I hate to go the way of the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Well, that all depends on what you're doing with that bird in your hand, why you want that bird, and point of view. We like to talk about point of view. How about the point of view of the birds in the bush? You know, for them, it's a hell of a lot better to be in the bush than in your goddamn grubby hands. And, you know, keep your grubby hands off them birds. What is wrong with you? Don't fuck with these birds. You know, the life of a bird is one of great seeking for food. And, you know, I just think you should leave them alone. I don't know why you're dicking around with all these birds. In Slovenia, there's a fun with the cliche is when people use cliches. We were living in a kind of a dumpy little apartment, and we were offered the chance to move to a new apartment. And here's another thing that's valuable about cliches. We were told by a friend of the landlord of the place we were living in that in Slovenia we have a saying, a bird in the hand is better than a bird on the wire. Guess that depends what kind of wire. If it's an electric wire, you know, the bird could be shocked and could fall off. So from the bird's perspective, maybe it is better to be in the hand, because then, you know, they aren't going to get the electric torture, you know. I just read a book about a revolutionary, and you know, there was a little electric torture in that book, and you know, can you imagine what kind of people would take electric shocks to bird genitals? Not my kind of people. Not my kind of people. And you know, you can just picture the birds going, "You got no right. You got no right. You got no right to put that on my genitals." But you know, the thing about it, to get back to the type of people who use cliches, is it's fun to tell them, "I think I'm gonna get that bird on the wire." Yeah, we moved, and we had 3 good years in a really nice apartment, and we were able to pay the rent, not always on time, but we had 3 years in a really nice apartment, or living in the bird on the wire. So there's another way to use cliches, is to you know, develop character. Or people with no character use cliches quite often, and it's also, you know, in your daily life, it's a good way to determine your own behavior. When people say, you know, there's an open question, should I, shouldn't I? If they give you a cliche, the answer is you do the opposite of what they're saying, because they're utterly full of shit, usually. I'm going to clean my ear while I'm talking. Yeah. Never clean your ear while you're talking. That should be a cliche. But if your ear, you know, I mean, what harm does it do? Oh, people, okay. Sorry, I faked it. I didn't really eat my ear wax because I couldn't get any out. I'm going to have to go now and clean my earwax. Remember, earwax in the nose is better than earwax. Shit, I don't know. I can't think of a cliche for that. So, you know, there's another thing about cliches. Come up with your own cliches. Yeah, there you go. And I make that a challenge. I will give you a reward if you come up with a good challenge about a good cliche about earwax. There will be a monetary reward of some size for anybody who can come up with a great cliche about earwax. That's your lesson for today. And now the analytics say that nobody's left. I'm talking to an empty room. And I just want to say, shit, wouldn't it be great if I could come up with a cliche? Person talking to an empty room is a person talking to himself. No, no, he's talking to an empty room. Doesn't mean that he's talking to himself. Means he's just not being heard by anybody in the room because there's nobody in the room. And, maybe even there's some echo, and then he's talking to himself inadvertently. See, all these things, you don't have to, well, remember the Marx Brothers, that's all I'll say. Remember the Marx Brothers. They need cliches for their humor.